Today's video is something I'm very passionate about. The 3D era of Mortal Kombat is like mayonnaise. You either love it or you hate it. I'm personally very fond of the 3D games, especially the new characters. So obviously, I'm very happy that Mortal Kombat 1's roster is a clear love letter to the 3D era fans. We have Ashura, Reiko, Li Mei, Kenshi, and even Tanya if you count Mortal Kombat 4 as a 3D game. But then you have two 3D era characters that were completely ruined in Mortal Kombat 1, Havik and Nitara. Both of these characters were changed so drastically, and of course Nitara got it the worst, and I'm not just talking about the voice.
Don't I scare you in the least?
Yeah, that obviously didn't help, but there's so many more factors that ruined her character in Mortal Kombat 1, and the same goes for Havik, and I'm gonna start with him because his problems are easier to explain. When it comes to his gameplay, Havik is honestly perfect. He injures himself on purpose while fighting, and his attacks are so graphic that it becomes comedic. So when it comes to those aspects of his character, NetherRealm really nailed Havik. However, when it comes to everything else, his personality, his origin, etc., they screwed up everything. In fact, we can't even call this guy Havik because that's not his real name.
Return to Saido, Dairu.
Where did you learn my real name?
That's right, you heard that correctly. This character is actually Dairo, but with Havik's moveset. Now, why did NetherRealm do this? I honestly have no idea, but if I had to guess, I imagine they thought that nobody would like Dairo, but they still wanted to include him because this roster is an homage to the 3D era, and so they decided to merge him with Havik. But that's like taking Kano and merging him with Suhao just because you think nobody wants to play Suhao. Why would you purposely attach a tumor to one of your characters, especially a fan favorite character like Havik? If you have no confidence in Dairo and think that fans don't want him to return, then just leave him out of the game. But nope, that's not what NetherRealm did. They merged both these characters together, and as a result, Havik's personality is actually backwards. He's constantly yelling, making demands, and full of rage. He's basically overflowing with short man syndrome. He's got small PP energy, which is likely why half the characters make fun of him.
Deny me and become my enemy.
Watch me shiver with fear.
You will accept chaos, by choice or by force.
I won't be threatened by the likes of you.
Oppose me, and you'll be killed.
Shouldn't I be free to choose?
Yeah, thanks. I hate it. But the sad truth is, I knew this was coming ever since the reptile reveal trailer. But I didn't want to say anything because I was hoping that I was wrong and just overreacting. In that trailer months ago, Havik is very angry and demanding of Ashura. He's like, embrace chaos or else. And unfortunately, that sums up his new character pretty well. He's just angry boy gets mad. And some of you watching might be wondering why that's a problem, because being angry does fit his appearance, but believe it or not, being angry and full of rage is the exact opposite of Havik's character in the original games. One of the coolest things about Havik in Mortal Kombat Deception was how softly he spoke and how calm he was.
You are correct, except I would have killed you if you had given me the chance. I was quite serious. Because you have survived my assault, however, I give you this key to an ancient labyrinth. May it unleash chaos upon your journey.
The way Havik spoke made him mysterious and even a little bit creepy. You'd expect a cleric of chaos to be loud and crazy, but he's the opposite, which is perfect because chaos is supposed to be unpredictable. And that's exactly what Havik was. In fact, he would even troll the player from time to time. So as you can see, the original Havik is nothing like the new one. In fact, this new Havik isn't even from the Chaos Realm, because once again, he's actually Dairo, and Dairo's not from Chaos Realm, so that had to be changed. And if you think that's disappointing, hold on to your seat because Chaos Realm doesn't even exist in this new timeline. That's right, Havik's home turf and one of the coolest realms in Mortal Kombat lore is just gone in the new timeline. Thanks for that change, NetherRealm. I absolutely hate it. I mean, at least give us Hotaro if you're gonna push Order Realm so much, which by the way, they don't even pronounce correctly in Mortal Kombat 1.
Your family's rule is as tyrannical as Order Realms.
Outworld is not Cydo, Havoc.
Yeah, but that's about it for my Havoc rant. As mentioned earlier, his gameplay is really good and nails the character well, but everything else about this character is a complete failure. He rages like a child and his backstory is stupid now. So next, let's switch over to Natara and talk about her. Just like with Havoc, her gameplay is pretty darn good, aside from the frame data and hitbox issues. Natara didn't really fly much in the original games, which felt like a huge waste of her awesome wings. But thankfully in Mortal Kombat 1, her movement and attacks are fully realized. She is flying all over the place. Her aerial movement is crazy and second to none, and for her combos, she keeps you in the air the entire time. It's perfect. So yeah, NetherRealm nailed her gameplay, but just like with Havoc, they messed up everything else. And of course, I have to mention the voice acting. I must address the biggest elephant in the room. Megan Fox did not do a good job with this character.
The wings, the fangs? Ha! Girl, you're gonna own award season.
I'm so glad I please you, Cage.
In fact, her voice acting was so bad that everybody memed on it for weeks, which quickly turned Natara into the biggest joke of the entire game. I am not exaggerating when I tell you that Natara went from a fan favorite character to one of the most hated characters in less than 1 month. And many players would argue that her terrible voice acting is the sole reason why she's so hated now. And honestly, they could be right, but for me, the issues go much deeper than that, because for some reason, the writers decided to strip away all of the nuance from Natara's character. In Mortal Kombat 1, Natara is an evil vampire, and that's it. There is no more depth to her character. It stops and ends right there. Natara wants to invade your realm so that her people can feast on you forever, or at least until you all die and then she's forced to move on. Yeah, that's some pretty sadistic stuff, which is likely why every character in the game hates her.
I won't weep if your race dies.
So much for a kinder, gentler Outworld. If no one aids us, Vaternians will go extinct.
And the realms will be better for it.
You Outworlders believe yourselves so superior.
Compared to Vaternians, we are.
Why presume Vaternis is a hellish place?
It must be to have produced you.
Once again, I just have to ask why. Like, why did NetherRealm do this to her character? Why take somebody who's complex and nuanced and just reduce them down to evil? Like, I'm serious, I don't think you could make a more generic vampire character if you tried. And it's a damn shame too, because the original Natara was actually really complex. For starters, she was never a villain at all, never the bad guy. She never once teamed up with the bad guys or tried to invade anybody's realm. Now, that being said, she wasn't exactly a hero either. Instead, Natara was more of a neutral character. You never quite knew what she was going to do. Sometimes she would save people, but she always had an ulterior motive for doing so. In other words, she was self-serving and definitely working in her own interests, but that's not the same thing as being evil. A really good example is her ending in Deadly Alliance. Natara is searching for a mystical orb, and she found it, but the problem is it's at the bottom of a lava lake. So she finds Cyrax and tells him, if you get me that orb, I'll send you back to Earthrealm, and she does exactly that, because like mentioned earlier, Natara is not an evil character, she's just neutral. But on top of that, Natara was also very wise, which makes sense when you think about it, because vampires live for a very long time, and as a result, Natara is likely very old, similar to Katana and Jade, who've also lived for thousands of years. For example, Natara was able to recognize that Ashura's sword was actually an ancient evil weapon made by the vampires, whereas Ashura believed the sword was holy because it helped her kill demons. But in reality, the sword was just cursed and hungry for blood and could actually mind control the wielder to kill for it. So if Natara had not stepped in, then Ashura would have just kept killing for all eternity and even committed genocide on the vampire people. But thankfully, Natara was there to save Ashura, and that's just one example of her wisdom. Natara also knows spells and incantations. She can use magic. There's honestly so much depth to Natara in the original games, but in Mortal Kombat 1, she does not have any of that complexity. And if I'm being honest, I blame Ashura. Somebody at NetherRealm really adores this character and wanted to push her super hard. And in order for Ashura to take the spotlight, they shoved Natara under the bus. And I just realized it's the same case with the movies for some reason. In the Cage Match animated movie, Ashura is literally a main character, whereas Natara in the Mortal Kombat movie dies in a single hit without speaking a single line of dialogue. Rest in peace to one of my favorite characters characters in the series. Pour out some blood for our girl Natara, or maybe some tomato juice or something. It's so frustrating and disappointing. This character had so much potential, especially her realm, because despite being in several games, we've never gotten to see the vampire realm. So you would think that NetherRealm would finally do that. Make the vampire realm a key part of the story mode and give us a new stage to fight on. Let us battle in the vampire realm. But nope, instead all we get is an arcade ending. And guess what? It's just generic gothic architecture, just really tall churches, and that's it. Bruh, these are vampires, they hate churches, and why would their architecture be the same as Earthrealm's? These are immortal creatures, and you're telling me their technology never advanced. Why do their buildings look like our ancient gothic architecture buildings, but taller? Look, listen, maybe Natara will somehow be in the sequel and get redeemed, but I won't hold my breath. And the same goes for Havoc. Great gameplay, but terrible everything else. No outro this time, leave a like, I'm done.